All right, welcome back. Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Rick Doty is with us. And Rick, right before the break, we were talking about Roswell. What exactly happened at Roswell?
Okay, this is what I was briefed on. I was briefed by a Air Force colonel. There were others in the room. There were 20 or so in the room, and a senior enlisted person from the Air Force. We were given a folder um, with what happened in Roswell, and we were then shown a film which showed the recovery at Roswell. But what happened? There were two extraterrestrial crafts flying around New Mexico in late June, early July of 1947. These two crafts were, I guess, just investigating or exploring our planet, and just I don't know how they got to New Mexico. But anyways, during that time period, there was a very vicious electrical storm, lightning, vicious lightning in New Mexico. And if anybody's ever lived here in New Mexico, which where I live, you can understand that we have some really bad lightning. I mean, horrible lightning storms. And the government, at least this is what we were told, the government figures that these two crafts flying were struck or encountered lightning and upset their navigation system. One crashed, and the other one flew some distance west and eventually crashed in Horse Mesa, but they didn't find that for a couple years later. One of both of these crafts had an extension on the back of it, which we believed was their antenna or some other avionics. That broke off, landed in the debris field where Mark Braswell found it. The craft itself crashed near Corona, near a ranch near Corona. And during that time period, there was an archaeological team from Albuquerque, New Mexico, from the university out there. And they're the ones that actually found that craft and found that live ET. They notified the sheriff of the county, Lincoln County, and eventually the Mexico State police officer arrived, and a recovery team from both Roswell Air Base and Kirtland Field came out and recovered the craft. And that's the actual story that was in the official U.S. government document and the film. So any other stories isn't what the government is saying. And I'm confident that when the disclosure comes out and they start with this is exactly what they're going to tell the public.
The uh okay. The part about this where the I was told the other night on the air by one of the guests that we actually shot down those craft, that it wasn't a lightning storm. Um, there's that, and then the second part to this is you're saying that there is I've always assumed this, but you're saying that the government has film of Roswell in their possession. I mean, you have seen it yourself. What was in this film? Was it the Corona crash site? What was in the film? What did you see?
The film starts with an Army, back then, of course, Army Air Force. It was an Army person um, given a quick preamble to what we were about to see, a recovery of an extraterrestrial flying craft. That's what he referred to it as in New Mexico. And they didn't mention Roswell or Corona, but sometime during that they did. But it showed a tent, a large tent, in the military we would refer to as GP large and several GP medium, smaller tents. And the flaps were open, and there were military personnel moving in and out of the tents. The camera comes into the tent, and there's things on the table. One of them was looks like handprints, maybe their navigation, how they navigated, but their hands are in some kind of panel. And then there were little gadgets on the table. And then the camera went through out to where this craft was, and it's embedded in the soil. It landed like in a mound or something. And they showed the dead ETs, but they were in body bags. They showed the body bags. They showed partially inside the craft, and then they swung back a larger angle of the outside of the craft. At some point, they filmed. Somehow it might have been later. They had moved the bodies inside the tent, and they had the body bags opened, and the cameraman from an angle, a corner angle, filmed in and showing the bodies, the 5 bodies on an examination table or something like that.
5
And then
bodies.
there were 5, yeah. There would be 5. Well, 4 bodies and the live ET. It didn't show the live ET. This film didn't show it, but they referred to it later as one survived. They said one alien survivor, and they said that later in the film. Then the narrator talked about who had been there, who was reporting this, and then they panned away. And now I don't know if this was the same day or days later. You can't really tell on these old films. But President Truman, they showed President Truman had apparently was there at some point. I don't know, was that same day or some days later. And then many different Army brass. Some of them you could see their face. Some of them they didn't. I don't know if they purposely filmed below their shoulders or what, but some of them you couldn't see their face, but you could see a lot of military personnel who anybody in the military would recognize as being officers, flag officers. The film lasted about 30, some minutes, and
Wow.
that's it.
Okay.